that got them backed up, and just trying to, as you see Aaron Rodgers then getting onto the cart. The word we're getting on Rodgers is
obviously terrible news out of New York. Aaron Rodgers, potentially suffering with that torn Achilles, which is just devastating to the Jets, devastating to the fan base, especially on a day like that where you walked everybody out. He ran out with the flag. People have been excited. You had the Hard Knocks. Obviously, the fan base needed something to be excited about. It had been some time, and they're fearing for the worst. Even the organization and majority of the media believe it is the torn Achilles, which would just be a backbreaker, because the torn Achilles is one of the worst injuries you can sustain in sports. And it's just terrible to see players, especially the player of Aaron Rodgers' caliber, sustain an injury like that. It's bad in the NBA when you saw Kobe sustain that. It's just really tough to come back for. Kobe was never the same, and I know it's two different sports, but still, like, he's 39 right now. If it is the Achilles, it's really tough to come back from that, especially at his age. But that's just a really tough situation for them. But the main question is, can this team, as they are, can they still compete for, the title? Can they still make the postseason? Do they still have what it takes? And I think you really look at this roster, and the first and foremost, you look at the defense, and it's an elite team. Yesterday, what a way, if you even look at the team as it is, what a way to come back and rally around each other and find a way to win that game yesterday. The defense stepped up when they had to. Role players like Gibson, who undrafted free agent, made the team, stepped up when he needed to. Garrett Wilson encouraged Zach Wilson when he needed to. Even Lazard stood up when he needed to. That offensive line stood up when they needed to. It's a resilient crew. I think they got a really good coach. The main problem is probably Zach Wilson and somewhat that offensive line, because everything else, they don't really have a hole on that team. But, they came out, they got just, a dramatic win. And, you could honestly say, they won the battle, but, are they going to win the war? Are they going to end up losing the war? And, like I said, if you look at the roster, the defense is elite. No, without question, a top 3 defense in the NFL. You don't have a hole on defense. Your secondary's elite. The guys up front, just elite. Quentin Williams causes so many problems to offenses. They're going to cause a lot of problems to offenses. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, a guy that I thought was going to sustain himself as a top 5 receiver in the league this year. Obviously, without Rodgers, not quite going to be there, but still a really great receiver. Lazard's a solid receiver. Cobb is, a capable receiver. I think that Gibson's going to get some more reps, especially after this game. Similar position guys. You can both plug them in the slot. But after that point, you really got to look at, can Zach Wilson make the plays necessary, to get this offense involved? You have what I think, could be the best running back group in the NFL. Michael Carter, Dalvin Cook, and a guy in Breece Hall who just has picked off right where he left off. It's looked as if he hasn't, moved a muscle. It looks as if nothing's changed for him. And, I think he's a Pro Bowler by the end of this year, barring injury. He looked great. And he's not even all the way back. And if you look at it, if Zach Wilson can just, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because he probably didn't expect to really take a snap this entire year. You can't expect that, especially on that big, huge Monday night game. There were probably some nerves there. He obviously wasn't ready. Apparently, he hadn't really had reps with the first team at all, which makes sense. Because it was never a question that there was no battle. Like, it was always going to be Rodgers. So now that I take a second to look at the schedule, you really just got to diagnose, can this team get to the postseason? I'm thinking they lose against the Cowboys. You could beat the Patriots. That game against the Chiefs is going to be tough. But the Chiefs, if they still don't have Kelsey, I mean, the defense could get in the way. They could beat the Broncos. I don't think they beat the Eagles. Giants haven't been great, so they could beat them. You got to think that the Chargers would beat them. They're not going to be able to put up as many points as the Chargers. They could beat the Raiders. I mean, there's wins here that I see. You got Houston, Atlanta, a much better team than I thought, but you could win that game. Cleveland's starting to look pretty good, so that's going to become a much tougher game. It's possible that they could make the postseason, but it's going to come down to Zach Wilson. He's just going to have to play. He's just going to have to, go out there and because I think he was getting a lot better in Hard Knocks. You could see that, his confidence was starting to build. But, now he's gotten to a point where he's right back into the fire. And how is he going to respond this week 2 against Dallas is going to be the main question. I think that, if he executes, there's no question they could be a playoff team. But, beyond that, prayers out to Aaron Rodgers. This is something that, as a fan of the sport, you hate to see it. But, there's nothing you can really do about it.